Hi everybody, this is Steve Ludwig, host of Steve Ludwig's Classic Pop Culture and the Beatles Hour with Steve Ludwig at PlanetLudwig.com. Here's an interview we did with the late Lesley Gore on May 20th, 2014, show number 41. To hear the entire show, check out the menu at PlanetLudwig.com. And now, please enjoy the interview. And is there a more beloved song than It's My Party? Before It's My Party, we heard from the Ever Since CD from 2005, beautiful version by our guest. Miss Gore has won Grammy Awards. She's been nominated for Academy Awards. She's been all over the world. She's been in our musical lives since the 60s. She is still making CDs. It is an honor and a pleasure to welcome Ms. Lesley Gore. Lesley, welcome to the show.
Please call me, I was going to tell you to please call me Steve, but I think Lesley would be more appropriate. Please call me Lesley.
Okay, Steve, I will.
Thank you for thank you for this opportunity to talk with you, Steve. I'm very pleased to do it.
Oh, please. Pleasure, I assure you.
And I do answer to Steve, just in case it comes up.
Okay, good. And I answer to Lesley every once in a while as well. So I think
as
we're
well you
should.
Shape. There's no question about it. Everyone should.
I'll tell you, we played It's My Party right after listening to You Don't Own Me. But let's talk about the Ever Since CD first, if you don't mind. We're going to play another song from that later on, but You Don't Own Me, my goodness, what a great, great version. Were you a little daunted by reimagining that song, or You Don't Own Me?
Yes, I think so. You know, it's hard to take a great song and a great record and make it better. And I'm not sure we did, but I think we made some interesting changes, and it felt like an interesting version. I go back and forth between the two of them in performance, and for the most part, I do the original.
I'll tell you, I mean, I think the great thing about music, or one of the great things about music, Lesley, is that you can maybe speak to 5 different people, you get 5 different interpretations. The original version of You Don't Own Me, first of all, I know it's kind of thought of by people as a girl to boy, but it could also be boy to girl, boy to boy, girl to girl. That's a universal relationship song as far as I'm concerned.
That's exactly what I thought when I first heard it. I mean, I think it was presented as girl to boy, but I definitely thought of it as one human being to another, and gender didn't really seem to make a difference, and neither did age. You know, it was a lot of fun at 16 to stand up on a stage, shake your finger, and tell people not to tell you what to do or say. You know, it was very cathartic.
With the new version on the 2005 CD called Ever Since, again, my point was when you can get so many different interpretations, it was almost as if the person singing is almost beaten down. Maybe not beaten down, but it's kind of like, I've been through this before, and I'm telling the new person now, you don't own me. Of course, I'm reading into it, but it's such a torch song kind of. It seems more tortured, this version, which I love.
I think it is. I think it's a much darker version, which makes it interesting, you know, for some people. Some people, you know, just like the original, and that's where they go. But I think it's an interesting arrangement, and I enjoyed doing it. And of course, I think it also went that direction because we had fewer instruments to cull from. Mm-hmm. Because we went in basically with a rhythm section and voices. It's not like we could add strings and, you know, make it sweeter.
Mm-hmm. Everyone, I want you to know, just go to LesleyGore.com, and that's a wonderful website that you have, Lesley Gore. And I know that you can click on there, and it also brings you to the Lesley Gore Fan Club website, which is where most of the news is. And it's from that website.
I need to thank my fan club president for that, Jack Natoli, who's been with me now for about, I don't know, maybe 38, 39, maybe 40 years, and he takes great care of the website, and it's a great place to go. That's where I go when I need information, so he's really great.
Yeah, it's you can tell it's done with a lot of love, for sure. As a matter of fact, it's on that website that I became aware of this year, just re-released Girl Talk with bonus tracks. The bonus tracks. What do you remember about Girl Talk, first of all, the CD, and then I'd like to talk to you about some of the bonus tracks.
What do I think about the album?
Yeah, making the album Girl Talk and some of the bonus tracks on it. I can read some of the.
Well, I really didn't know anything about it until I got a copy in the mail from the people who re-released it, which is a company over in England. I think it's Ace Records.
Yes, Ace
And they
Records.
seem like just wonderful people. And I know they had someone call me up to do a little pre-interview for the CD. And they're coming out with another one, as I understand as well. They're melding two albums, and they're putting them together and putting them out like next year. So they're a very viable company, and I think it's wonderful that they're doing that. Somehow those things always seem to shoot a little energy into those records, and people hear them again. And it's always fun when people do that. And I never know half the time when it's happening.
You're more as surprised as your fans are sometimes, huh?
Exactly. I'm the last person to know.
Oh,
But
well,
I think they're doing a great job. I think they're doing a terrific job. And the beauty is they do send me a copy, so it's not like I don't know it's happening.
yeah,
They
and
just let me know afterwards.
the sound is great. The liner notes are wonderful in Girl Talk, and also Magic Colors, which was released in 2011 with bonus tracks.
That's right.
Yeah, I love your covers of songs. For instance, 98.6 and Lazy Day this is from the Magic Color CD, and Wedding Bell Blues, and of course, To Serve with Love and How Can I Be Sure. Just as I asked you before about reimagining You Don't Own Me, what was it like taking on those classics? Because we know the classics, but they're all Leslie Gore, these versions. It's so wonderful.
Well, the interesting thing was at that period of time in my career, Quincy had already left Mercury Records.
Yeah, Quincy Jones. I'm sorry.
Quincy Jones, of course, did It's My Party and all of the earlier records. And then he began to do film scores and was out in L.A. for a good portion of time. So I was trying a number of different producers at the time. And sometimes we just couldn't find new and exciting material. So we felt more comfortable going to songs that people might know, covering other songs. And very often with new producers, I like to do that because it gave me a head up, especially if we weren't getting the best of material or I wasn't feeling strongly motivated to go into the studio with what we had. And I always chose songs that I enjoyed listening to and knew I would enjoy singing. So it was always fun to do those covers.
And boy, you nailed them. Like I said, it's as if we know the songs, but it's got that Leslie Gore touch, which is just makes them even that much more enjoyable. How did a little 16-year-old girl from the cutie pie from Tenafly, no matter where you, by the way, Leslie, no matter where you travel around the world, to a New Jersey native such as myself, you will always be the cutie pie from Tenafly. I know, you're never going to get rid of that tag. I hope you know that.
I love it. Look,
okay.
I'm always, I played very frequently with a gal by the name of Peggy March, who
Little Peggy March, sure.
Little Peggy, exactly. Yeah. And I always giggle to myself because I could have been dubbed Little Leslie for absolute sure.
That's true.
And I fortunately avoided it. But I like the Sweetie Pie of Tenafly. That's a kind of sweet.
Well, how did a 16-year-old girl from Tenafly wind up making music with a jazz trumpeter, Quincy Jones? That's a pairing I may not have thought of.
Absolutely. I'm going to kind of give you a short summary.
Yeah.
I had become friendly while I was on a teen tour. We had stopped in Vegas, and I had become friendly with a woman who was sitting at a lunch counter who turned out to be a chorus girl from New York who had taken vocal lessons, and I started talking to her about the business and vocal lessons, and she gave me the name of her vocal coach. When I got home from that teen tour that summer, I called this man up, and I made arrangements to go into New York to see him, and I worked with him for a couple of months, and I was enjoying it very much. We would do maybe 10 or 15 minutes of vocalizing up front, and he would help me with technique. And then his wife would come in, play the piano, and we would do any songs we wanted to sing. And it was a wonderful way to get to know new songs and have someone help me with technique. One day he took me into the studio and we did 3 piano voice demos, and those demos got to my cousin Howie Albert, who was a fight promoter for a fighter by the name of Emil Griffith. This gets weirder. Emil was at one point the middleweight champion of the world. Howie heard these demos, and he took them to Emil Griffith's agent, who was Joe Glazer, and also the manager and agent of Louis Armstrong.
Boy.
So Joe was very much in this business. At the time, there were no managers just for fighters or for athletes. It was all kind of under one umbrella. And he heard my demos, sent them to Irving Green. Irving Green put them on Quincy Jones's desk, who was his head of A&R, and given the assignment to figure out what to do with me. He came up with It's My Party, and that's the nuts and bolts of it.
Did you, when you had a hit that young, I guess you were 16, I think you were 17 when it went number one, but it was on the radio when you were 16. Did it get tough for you to, at that point, know who your real friends were? I guess you had a lot of new friends once you became famous. Is that ever been a problem?
Obvious.
It is obvious.
Obvious.
So that's never real. You've been able to navigate, who the BSers are and who the real friends are throughout your career.
You develop antenna very, very quickly and very easily. Yeah, it's a bit disillusioning, but it's a reality, and you come to understand it, and you look at things a little differently, perhaps.
Do you feel you grew up faster than you would have normally without a hit record?
I think so, absolutely.
Yeah.
No question. Yeah. I was just exposed to so much more. There was a lot of drugs in clubs. There was a lot of drinking. Just a lot of stuff that I normally wouldn't have come in contact with till I went, into college or much later.
Yeah. I want to share something with our listeners without going into detail, audience. This morning, Leslie gave me a phone call, and all I'll say is that Leslie went above and beyond the call of duty when she got in contact with something concerning this interview tonight. And Leslie, for all the as famous as you are, for you to do something like that, it speaks volumes for the quality of your character. And I just want to thank you for calling me this morning and talking about what we talked about. It's really so nice.
When I really think about what this last 50 years has been, it's been people like yourself who have had the interest and call and keep me alive in these situations, and I'm so aware that it is you that does that, and you're the one who feeds it to the audience, who then comes and buys tickets because they're still aware of the name. So it really is, it's a dual factor, but it's media and it's the fans as well, and I have all of you to thank. Otherwise I wouldn't still be singing and making a living making music. And that's been kind of the main thrust in my life. I've never stopped making a living at music. I don't know how many people can actually say that.
No, you have always. I mean, since It's My Party, you've been in our consciousness. You have, like you just said, you have continued to tour and make new music. With that being said, I'd like to go back to, we just talked about Girl Talk was re-released this year, 2014. I think it was just this month, as a matter of fact. There's one song on there that I'd love to play now. There's so many great songs I could have chosen, but You've Come Back is a song I'd like to share with our audience. Do you have a word or two to say about that before we listen to it?
Yeah, I sure do. Van McCoy wrote this song, and Van had made a lot of records, or actually made some records after that, and was pretty well known, but I thought this was one of the most beautiful songs that I ever heard, and would have kind of, in a way, been very proud if Mercury had seen fit to release it as a single, because I think the song is so touching that it would have meant a lot to a lot of people, and it's one of my favorites. Thanks for choosing it.
And let's listen right now to the wonderful You've Come Back.
You've come back Thank God at last you've come back. And darling, I won't ask the reason why, or even try to find out, 'cause all I care about is that you've come back. Thank God you're here. You've come back. It doesn't matter, dear, who's wrong or right. Just hold me tight and kiss me and show me that you miss me. Just being here again with you is worth all the pain and tears that I've been through. You've come back, oh happy day. You've come back, and believe me when I say I'm gonna try as much as I know
ne sais plus ce qui vient d'arriver entre nous. Je ne sais plus pourquoi je suis tout à coup. Je ne sais plus quoi faire maintenant. Un jour tu m'avais promis l'amour pour toute la vie.
And the familiar, You Don't Own Me, but the French version is a little snippet for you. Leslie, I think that's a great example. You have such international appeal. What was it like as a youngster, first of all, visiting all these other countries?
It was great fun for me. In fact, I went to such a hip high school that they let me off for weeks at a time to go over to England and to Germany and to France to tour a bit and to do some recording. And it was always more fun. We were always wined and dined and stayed at nice places and got to see cities. So it was more than just recording, though the experiences were always a lot of fun. And for the most part, we went over with the tracks. So all I really had to do was concentrate on getting out a vocal in another language.
Mm. You said that you got to go out of school. I mean, for those who are listening to this that might still be in school, I know Steve's students listen to this.
Yeah, I'm a teacher, Leslie. I'm a school teacher also.
Oh.
Did like when you were going off and were away from school for such a period of time, how did you keep up with your studies? Did they provide you with a tutor or?
Well, they provided me with a lot of work that I had to get done before I came back. So I had a fair amount of work to do, sort of on a daily basis. And, I would go off for maybe 2 or 3 weeks. I didn't go off for months at a time.
I guess you did a lot of work during summer vacation.
I did, exactly.
Yeah.
And I booked stuff at Christmas. I had a little free time. There was Easter vacation. There was midterms, and there was summer. So I tried to stay in school. I knew that was more important.
Yeah. We mentioned school. We may as well give a shout out, Leslie, to Dwight School for Girls in Englewood, which is
There
where
we
you went to
go.
high school.
So Bergen County.
A good old Bergen County. I'm a Hudson County boy. I grew up in North Bergen. I now live in Fort Lee, but it was, well, being we're in that area, could you even think of how many times you played Palisades Amusement Park?
Oh my God!
It's,
I recently, a couple of months ago, I did a show with cousin Brucey, who was the host of that Saturday, Sunday thing that they used to do, and he used to bring artists like myself in to lip sync their songs. He was with the WABC at the time, and he would come in these like tiger suits, and he'd make his father wear one. I don't know, he must have paid his father a fortune.
I was out there in the audience, Leslie. You bet.
And he would actually host these shows, and you'd come on and lip sync, and I must have done 25 of those shows at least for him.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. I remember the singers like yourself, and they used to have these acrobats on these long poles that bent. I mean, I was a young guy, but that's what I remembered about Palisades Amusement Park. We talked before also about your appeal throughout the ages, right up to present day. I mean, there's not a person who doesn't know Leslie Gore, It's My Party, but there's so much other music you've given us. But I do want to mention, we mentioned You Don't Own Me. I wrote down the date, back on May 10th, just a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
Rumor Willis at the LA Gay and Lesbian Center's Evening with Women sang You Don't Own Me. And that's got to make you feel great for someone, a young person, to cover your song at an event which I'm sure is near and dear to your heart.
Absolutely. It's you were the one who told me about this, because I was actually traveling in the last couple of weeks and just got home last night. But I am going to go online immediately. I'm sure it's on YouTube. I'm going to look for it. But it makes me feel just wonderful that she would understand that song and make it her own and do it in front of that group of people. I think it was a wonderful choice. And
I actually saw it right on your own website.
Oh,
yeah,
fantastic!
So,
well, that's where to go. That's where.
LeslieGore.com, everyone. That's where and she's such a wonderful singer. I never knew that about Rumor, but I guess she's had some background in singing.
Indeed.
Never knowing where Leslie Gore is going to go, let's talk about the CD When Pigs Fly and your cover, your very cool rendition of Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap. Now,
so, there was a label called Xenon, that's with an X. It came to me with this idea of doing an album called When Pigs Fly. And I thought it was kind of an interesting idea, and I happen to have been in a situation where I was working with a producer in Jersey, just kind of on Kinderkamak Road, almost as you got to Hackensack.
Oh, good old
and we were kind of like all set up and doing some Christmas stuff and just doing some other things and playing around. And he put a track together one day, and we went out and just did it, and it was kind of fun. And every now and again, when least expected, I'll do it live on stage.
Wait a minute.
And I like to do it right after Out Here on My Own.
Which we're going to talk about in a few minutes. Oh boy!
She said they were doing
talk about
so
contrast.
I can say, and now from the sublime to the ridiculous.
Talk about contrast.
I gotta comprehend this real quick. You were doing Christian music one minute, and then the next minute you go right into AC/DC. That blows my. Hallelujah. I mean, AC/DC is my favorite band of all time. I have to ask, have you had any feedback from them about that?
I haven't, but the funny thing is, and I just absolutely adore this, when you go to iTunes and you punch up Dirty Deeds, my version comes up first.
Wow.
Perfect.
Wow.
Speaking of your version, Leslie, Joe, why don't we listen to it? Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap, Leslie Gore.
Okay, put in your earplugs, audience.
Having trouble with your high school head. He's giving you the blues.
So after the EMS has cleared out half the audience with that song, "Dirty Deeds," Leslie, oh boy, you really let it go on that one. That is a very, very cool thing for Leslie Gore to do.
Again, it was sort of one of those things that I didn't know that I would enjoy singing it until I sang it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a good experience.
You mentioned the contrast with "Dirty Deeds" and Out Here on My Own." Of course, as our audience knows, that was your Academy Award-winning song from the movie Fame. I think Irene Cara sang it on the soundtrack, but it is from your Ever Since CD, 2005, and you wrote that with someone who's quite close to you.
Indeed, I did. I wrote that with my brother, Michael.
Yeah. There's a phrase that every once in a while applies, other times it doesn't, but they say you can't pick your relatives, but you can pick your friends. But from what I've read, even if Michael were not your brother, you'd probably pick him as a friend, huh?
Yeah, I think so. The other thing is, at a very early age, Michael exhibited musical talent. Literally, the piano was wheeled into the house. Some telephone books were put on the piano bench, and he sat down and played "Fly Me to the Moon," bass chord with a melody going in the right hand.
Mm.
So a light bulb clicked in my head, and I knew I had an accompanist.
Yes, right? Built in.
Exactly. So we did a lot of him. I mean, we were each other's first collaborators. And that, of course, went to, he would do arrangements, we would pick tunes, we would transpose. So we spent a lot of time at the piano. And this song was just, it came very easily, really, to both of us. And it was written like most of our stuff is. He doesn't even write with a title, which always amazes me because I need a title to write a song. But he played me this beautiful melody, and as it went through, I heard what the title should be and where it should be. And I said, give me a day to write the lyric, and that's what he did.
I think it's
to make a quick correction, it wasn't. Yeah. It was nominated for an award, but that year Fame won. So it's still in the family, but it didn't. But Out Here on My Own didn't get the Oscar.
Still, what they say is true. I would imagine just to be nominated, it's got to be quite an honor for you.
Oh, it truly is. It truly is, and it's also an incredible highlight for me in my show to be able to sit down at the piano and just let that one fly.
Why don't we listen to Leslie Gore's version from the 2005 CD Ever Since, the Academy Award nominee, Out Here on My Own.
Sometimes I wonder where I've been, who I am. Do I fit in? Make believing is hard alone out here on my own. That rising star to guide me far and shine me home out here on my own. When I'm down and feeling blue, I close my so I can be with you. Oh, baby, be strong for me. Baby, in, but I can't be thrown out here, out here on my own, out here on my own. I am all alone.
What a beautiful song. Leslie, you made an interesting point before we listened to the song that you need a title, you personally.
I
Why is that?
personally do.
Why do you feel that is?
I know it tells me what it just tells me what I'm talking about, and if I have a title, that sends me off in a direction. Also, you pick a place in the song that's right for that title, and it just sort of sets it all in motion. It's what gives me that real kick in the butt.
It helps you focus too, I would imagine.
Exactly. You know, some people can do just silly words, and I find that helps if you're working on something. But to really begin a song, it's hard to think scrambled eggs in your head and be emotionally moved by that.
Yeah, how did yesterday come out of scrambled eggs, right?
Exactly. But if you're thinking out here on my own, man, that already sends you down channels.
You just mentioned scrambled eggs, which was the working title for yesterday. Have you ever met any of the Beatles, Leslie? I would imagine.
I have actually. When I was over in England doing my first tour in the fall of '63, I was over there for the first time performing live, and I met them in the White Elephant disco one night with a group that I was with, and they were still doing cover songs, but they were being played like crazy, and everyone was dancing to their tunes, and they were very congenial. I didn't get to know them very well, but they all seemed quite nice.
Kids listening, yes, this is Leslie Gore, and from your movie that you guys love, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, this is the woman who sang Sunshine, Lollipops, and Rainbows from that movie. Your music is all over, Leslie.
It is great. That's great. And that's also, I love that one because we lost Marvin Hamlish much too early, about a year and a half ago. And this man had a lot more music in him. So I always, today when I do that song, it's also imbued with a lot more thought about just who he was and how early he died. Of course, it's a happy song, so
yeah.
I just think about him, and I know he's listening in. So it makes me happy.
Yeah. Did he write "It's My Party"? No,
he didn't.
Okay,
he
but that was his
California Nights as well, though.
Right. Okay, and "Sunshine" was his first hit, I
That's
believe.
correct.
Yes. Okay. Before I say goodbye, Leslie, and this time has gone so quickly. TV fans would kill me if I didn't at least speak a couple of minutes to you about your role as Pussycat on the Batman TV series. What was that like, working with Adam West?
My father's business partner's brother was the producer of the show, and he basically had this idea to put me in as a Catwoman's assistant. He called me up and asked me if that sounded cool to me, and I said, yeah, that sounds great. And, I had a great time doing it. I spent about 2 or 3 weeks out in L.A. and was living out there and kind of showing up at the studio every morning at 5 o'clock, so I was kind of living the actor's life. And I learned a lot of things, among which was that the television and films are not fast enough for me. But it was a great deal of fun, and I still stay in touch with the gang. Every time there's a new Batman movie out, we wind up on a television show or a radio show together.
Is that right? Oh, that's great.
Julie Newmar and I speak a couple of times a year, exactly.
That is so great to hear. Sorry, can everyone hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. We're good. We're
Leslie?
still rolling.
Can we hear Leslie?
I hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry, Leslie. Well, good. I
Okay.
just ruined that whole interview.
We're still rolling.
What?
You're still good.
Okay, good. I'm sorry. I just went back to the 60s for a second there.
No problem.
Leslie, I think most of us probably heard California Nights for the first time on Batman.
That's probably true.
Yeah,
That's probably true. It came out about that time, and it was a way of plugging the song. And it's a wonderful version. Of course, nothing could top my outfit on Batman.
Well-
and the interesting thing was that I sort of didn't have a feminist consciousness yet, because I actually let them put ears and a tail on me,
yeah, oh yeah, quite the opposite
and
of
really
you.
didn't
yeah.
think much about it. So I had a lot of growing to do as well.
Well, Leslie, real quickly, was there a boys' club, quote unquote, in the music business?
Absolutely,
Yeah,
still is.
it still is, huh? My
More
gosh.
so than in any other area of the of show business.
Ay, ay, ay. Well, I know you're very well. No, really, Leslie. I know you're a big advocate of the feminist movement, and
I am.
I appreciate your work in that area as well.
Thank
Well,
you.
as we say goodbye to the wonderful Leslie Gore, why don't we listen to maybe a 30-second snippet with Robin trying to make his move on Pussycat, but then we're going to go right into California Nights. And Leslie, my wife and I saw you, maybe 10 or 15 years ago at the Rainbow Room in New York City.
Oh my gosh,
And
that was so much fun.
Oh my gosh, what a great venue, right?
It was so wonderful. It breaks my heart a little that room doesn't exist,
Yeah.
and we can't go up there every couple of years and just have a nice time and make people happy. Things have changed a lot, but I'm glad you experienced it, because it was a wonderful experience for me.
I can remember behind the stage, was the windows with the New York skyline. And for some reason, when you sang California Nights, and I'm looking out at the New York skyline, it worked perfectly. You would think just the opposite. But that's one of the finest memories I've had of going to any show. And I just want to thank you for that great moment for my
Thank you
wife
for
and me.
sharing that. This has been great fun, Steve. You know where to get me if you need me again.